Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking your time to join us. This is IDCA's The Present and Future of AI webinar. And over the next hour, we're going to talk about that topic. And we're joined today by Mark Minevich, who is the AI Counsel for IDCA. Mark also sits on several boards of companies and other organizations worldwide. He lectures, he speaks, he researches all over the world, right on top of everything that is going on now with AI, and it will be going on with AI soon. We're also joined by Deep
However, I'm not AI. I'm a real person.
He's a real
Not
person.
AI. Not AI.
I actually like the AI version a little better, but that's okay. We have to settle for the real person today. And we're also joined by Deep Srivastav, who is the Chief AI Officer at Franklin Templeton. And I imagine there's some fairly interesting things going on there at Franklin Templeton. He'll talk about that today to the degree that he can. And we're joined by Tsvi, who is the CTO at the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And again, there's some interesting things going on. I just want to talk about AI in a general sense for a little bit to start. This doesn't directly relate to any of our panelists, but it is interesting to note, as we're all aware, that projections over the last, well, let's say the course of this year, projections for AI growth are pretty spectacular. The numbers, it's almost as if people are saying, match that number. Someone will talk about 500 billion, someone else will talk about several trillion. We're looking at a global footprint of data centers might expand by as much as 5 times between now and 2030. That's relevant to everyone in the sense that there's something going on you need to be aware of. And if in fact you are deploying some of these data centers, or if you're buying a lot of cloud, you got to be sure that it's going to be there. There's, of course, water and energy concerns, environmental concerns around the world that we won't talk about specifically today. But AI has entered the conversation in a big general way, not just within the tech industry. And it's within that context that we want to talk about the present and the future of AI. So in a couple of minutes, we're going to turn this over to Mark, and he's going to give us an overview. But before, we'd like to survey our participants on why you're here and what you're interested in. So if our producers could throw up the first survey question, that would be great. Where is your organization today in terms of AI adoption? And you get to answer one of them, and it's rolling in. These are like little horse races. They're kind of fun to watch. So right now, the two most popular answers are just exploring and early pilots. So using the horse metaphor, the horse is not out of the barn yet, although we do see 1/4 of our participants are already scaling across departments. So this looks like somewhere beyond initial enthusiasm, somewhere between early stage on a very fast road to maturity, with the actual people who claim maturity only at 2% at this point. If we could have a second question, please. Let's get number 2 up there if we can. There it is. What percentage of your IT budget is allocated to AI initiatives? This is something that people cannot tell you publicly, but it's nice that within this survey, we find this information out. This is kind of a big hammered approach to the thing. There's not a lot of nuance in this question, but we see less than 5% from half of the audience. But the other half is claiming they're already spending more than 5% of their budget on AI initiatives. What those initiatives are, we'd have to explore. But it's on the radar screen. This is something that's clearly in the mindset of enterprises. And then one more question, and we'll move on to discussion. Let's get number 3. What's the main driver for AI adoption in your organization? And I think that they rejected, I think I wanted to put fear into the answers, and I think that got rejected, probably because it would have been answered as 100%. Efficiency and cost reduction, always an issue. Customer experience, it was only 15%. I thought maybe that would be a little higher. New product development, important. Compliance and risk management, tricky thing. AI adoption may itself lead to some compliance and risk management issues, but is not the driving force behind it today. The clear answer here is efficiency and cost reduction, which to some degree I'll take as fear. With that said, and those inputs, Mark, you've been running all over the world the last 18 months, talking about AI, learning about AI, researching about AI, making a case for different versions of it. What's your
Most importantly, Roger, is trying to make sure that AI gets adopted in the way that it helps companies, enterprises, governments, sovereigns. That's the most important element. But thank you very much for having us, for having me, and people who are joining on this call. I'll be joining also on the stream from Silicon Valley, from New York, from UAE, anywhere in between. Thank you for being there. We're exploring today really the heartbeat of the digital economy, okay? What we call it IDCA. Some people call it digital future, algorithmic future. It's really between AI and data centers, and we'll talk about this. I want to start by a couple of striking facts and some news. By 2030, we talk about this date 2030 that AGI may start evolving on so many other things. By 2030, data centers alone are going to consume as much electricity, Roger, as countries like Ireland, Netherlands does today. That's the fact. And it's $1.8 trillion infrastructure overhaul in the making. That's so massive. And we're going to discuss this today. So think about this for the audience, the invisible engines that suddenly all of you are now checking us out and putting those prompts on ChatGPT queries, or you're driving this autonomous vehicle with the new engine that Elon is putting out with split-second decision. Do you know that it could potentially rival a nation's grid? So much energy could be taken just because of that. It's exciting, isn't it? But it's also daunting. The reality where we are in September in 2025, it is just a very pivotal moment. And that's why we're convening this today and having those discussions, and the discussions that I'm having across the world with the large companies, with sovereigns, with governments and such. You have some news actually out of this morning, Roger. This morning, it was announced that the chip company based in Silicon Valley, Grok, who we may not know, they produce chipsets, different alternative than for inference chips than NVIDIA. They just raised $750 million from at a 6.9 billion valuation from companies like BlackRock and others. So this is a big deal. And you've seen last week, EdgeConnect partnered with Lumba to build over 30 megawatts of AI optimized data centers in Chicago and Atlanta. What we're seeing is a dual city redundancy model. We're basically seeing a backup brain for operations that people are thinking about. We're seeing also North America. In the North America alone, we see a vacancy rate of data centers or basically at the record low, 1.6%. Hyperscalers like Microsoft, Google, AWS are all rushing. Everybody's rushing to secure power in advance. Maybe we should rush. But because AI is no longer just a buzzword that we spoke years ago, it's really, and Tsvi could mention this, it's a backbone of personalized medicine now. It's a backbone of finance that Deep could talk about. It's a backbone for smart cities that I see in countries like Saudi Arabia and UAE. It's a backbone for global supply chains. But growth, what I want the audience to recognize, doesn't come just that easy. Electricity use in data centers is going to double. AI is going to be responsible probably for half of that surge. That's really massive. When you look at the state of Arizona, the facilities in Arizona are consuming 49 billion gallons of water this year. It's unprecedented. innovation is also stepping up. People will hear about this term, probably not on this podcast, but maybe from others. But I want to mention small modular reactors, SMRs. They're being deployed to power AI sustainability right now. So when we spoke about sustainability, when I spoke about this years ago, it was just a whole academic discussion. Now we talk about the small modular reactors. What is Meta doing? Meta is investing 62 billion in green infrastructure. The nations of from India to the Gulf are weaving renewables into their roadmaps for the first time. Could the AI actually break through around on solar or maybe on nuclear in the United States and other countries? I know France is considering that, or maybe a size of a shipping container. In some places, it already does. On scaling infrastructure, I want to mention the game is also shifting very fast. The GPUs are no longer the story. We can't always, we talk about GPUs. We have to talk about ASICs. We have to talk about risk. We all learned risk architecture in schools. Now it's a risk-V architecture, risk-V accelerators. NVIDIA's framework is now incredible for small language models. It's now enabling efficient edge-ready AI. And edge-ready AI is gonna be a big component for micro data centers. It's gonna be more micro data centers than other data centers across US and globally. Bottlenecks, by the way, remain. It's not just a bottleneck on bandwidth, it's memory wall, where model growths are outpacing bandwidth. We don't talk about this a lot, but memory wall is a big issue. Then we have solutions coming, hybrid cloud solutions, edge computing, smart intra or inter data center traffic. They're transforming not only places like we hear about in Silicon Valley and Palo Alto and Menlo Park, but also agriculture in places like Africa. I visited Morocco recently, manufacturing in Europe. And I want to touch upon a few more things and then we'll proceed. I want to touch about geopolitics a little bit in a good way. It's very complex right now. Everybody's talking about something called sovereign data centers, sovereign AI. Yeah. And 32 countries, 32 countries is really where AI data centers are really playing a difference. Only 32 countries from the number of countries that are part of UN, they're not making a dent. And that's a big problem. So this is what United Nations is discussing. There's a sharp divide now, haves and have-nots. The US is China predominantly racing ahead. Europe is prioritizing regulations, sustainability. The Gulf states are wildcards, multi-gigawatt projects, sovereign AI ambitions. They are not just talking about servers. They're talking about national power, economic power, alliances, future of global competitiveness. On the investment side, I want to touch upon, I know we will talk about deeply on this. AI is, as you mentioned, projected 15 trillion in the global economy. McKinsey says that, PwC says something different, BCG, whatever it is, it's a big number. Generative AI is surging. Agentic AI is surging even more. Infrastructure is booming and people are investing in infrastructure, but there's also whispers, unfortunately. Whispers, we've seen it in August. People are talking about maybe there is a bubble. Will this bubble persist? I don't think so, but we got to talk about. Some really are even warning of 2026 correction as spending outpacing demand, because the number is stuck only with the large hyperscalers, and that cannot be. It's not trickled down to the rest of the industry. Still, I think optimism is still dominating, and I want the audience to know that it's dominating right now concurrently in September 2025. Companies like Oracle are soaring. You could see that on AI cloud deals. Investors are hunting for gems. I just had a call from my friends in Silicon Valley, the investors, especially in agentic AI. Everybody's looking for the next agentic AI gem. Infrastructure scale-ups are on the rise. And finally, to end my short talk, that's the shortest that I usually talk. There are longer talks, as you know. Enterprise transformation. We have two leaders with us that are much more knowledgeable on enterprise transformation. But I'm just going to say that those platforms are no longer pilots, are no longer pilots. They're running, in some cases, running core operations in the companies that we see here today on this call. With 87% now prioritizing AI, we see agentic AI reshaping healthcare, it's reshaping finance, it's reshaping media. And from genomic breakthroughs, something that Tsvi, I'm sure you'll talk about it at Sloan Kettering, to Gulf countries that are committing trillions and trillions of dollars into sovereign AI, to the enterprise map is completely being redrawn. So this is an interesting call, and let me leave you with this thought. It is not just technology. When people say AI is technology, AI is about us humans. It's about the next evolution of human ingenuity powered in a very interconnected or intraconnected world. And the question before us that maybe we could start off, Roger, is what role will each one of us play in the shaping of this new future? Let's explore it together. Thank you.
Yeah, well, Deep, having heard all that, but as we discussed earlier this morning prior to the webinar starting, if you could give us a brief overview of what you do, your responsibilities and how AI has affected your work and what's going on in your department and at Franklin Templeton as a whole over, say, the past 18 months.
No, thank you, Roger.
Yeah.
And it's always good to hear Mark. He brings in a real passion in this space, right? And which is very infectious. And we want to carry that forward. So, quick introduction. I'm the Chief AI Officer for Franklin Templeton. It's a 1.6 trillion asset manager with investments across public, private markets, equity. So, kind of with a very global footprint. For our world, I think what's really matters is so my role is and my team's role is to make sure that we are driving AI capabilities across the organization in a very business centric way, and that's the core of what we do. That requires whether it's creating those AI based products, whether it is researching on them, whether it is actually delivering on them and bringing them, and driving that enterprise transformation. We manage that process. And for investment management, as Mark already mentioned, it's a huge opportunity because investment management is a knowledge space. Everything that we do over here is about making decisions and driving that value for clients. We're not in the manufacturing business, as an example, right? So it's all about how do we consume information.
Sure.
And more importantly, where the Gen AI boom helped us was the fact that it's not just you're consuming information, but a lot of that information is contextual information. It's not just data, it's also the context of what the different firms that we invest in, what do the CEOs of those firms believe, what are their strategies. So there's a lot of that context that goes in, and this combination of generative and agentic AI allows us to really transform our business end to end. What have we been doing in the last 18 months? I would say that the biggest shift we made was we stopped doing use cases. We don't do use cases anymore. We pick functions and we say we will transform these functions. So we have picked a few of those functions on the operations and marketing, distribution, and some parts of investment. And we are on a process of doing a complete transformation of those processes. That's the core of what we are doing right now.
That's what we enjoy hearing. You really kind of on the leading edge. But you mentioned the use cases. How long ago were you doing them? When you was first on the radar, you realized you need to do something, and how quickly did you move to where you are today, and how you analyze it?
So we used to do use cases. I would say, we had established the AI function in 2022. Luckily, just before the generative AI boom, before ChatGPT got launched, so we got some tailwinds going into the process. And we did do a lot of use cases which started showing the value that you are running it in an operations space, and you say the accuracy of the process is jumped by 90%. The speed with which you can do them starts to jump. Anything that used to take 15 hours can be done in 3 minutes, 10 minutes, and so on. So you start seeing a lot of these individual pilots and value, which is what we did for, I would say, about a year to 18 months. And we did lots of them. And in each case, I think we came back with a strong conviction that this works, and this works very well. But we also quickly realized that this working in a small part of the process does not change the end-to-end process. Somebody may save a few minutes here and there. That feels very good, but that doesn't add the full enterprise value. For example, in our sales systems, our salespeople oftentimes they would be looking at data from multiple different systems to take all their actions and getting things done. We said that unless we combine everything into one seamless experience, this process will not really take off. So that was the reason we shifted from use cases to end-to-end process transformation.
Okay. Yeah. Tsvi, you've been sitting there very patiently for a while now. I've seen a lot of what I think are affirmative head shakes, which maybe you agree with things you've heard, or maybe you're just acknowledging it. But please tell us the nature of your work and how AI has affected your work and the entire organization over the last 18 months, plus any comments you might have on what you've heard so far.
Sure. So I would start by saying that. So let me start with what I do. I'll start with that. So I'm the CTO of Mobile Sloan Kettering, and overseeing the infrastructure and the environment as such. MSK is, well, as the name suggests, we do one thing and one thing only. We treat cancer. And our ultimate goal, as you probably know, is to be out of business. We would like to actually cure cancer. Now, to do that, we need to work a lot on not just the treatment side, but also the research side and identifying how does cancer work and how does it develop, and as such, understanding the genomics and the proteins that are in effect in the human body, so we can actually understand and then potentially either not just treat, but hopefully prevent cancer from happening. So in terms of AI usage, we divided it into several categories. There is what we call the environment itself, the memorial hospital and the such, and there in that environment, we'll talk about front office, middle office, back office, which
Okay.
is what touches patients directly, the areas that does with the treatment and the
Right.
environment itself, and then the back end, how to make the environment work. And then we have research itself. I'll
Okay.
start actually with research because we have been using AI in research for the last probably 14 years, 15 years. Of course, it was not Gen AI or agentic AI because it didn't exist, but deep learning, machine learning, neural networks, all of the above. And the big breakthrough came when we started to really understand the human genomics. And with this, we started to actually use high performance computing and AI on top of it to really start to understand the foundational function of the cells and the role of cancer of such. So that's something that is done today. We have about 170 labs, and 70% of all research today is either based on AI or is AI infused. So AI is not a co-pilot or a sidekick. AI is the actual mainstream of our entire research. So
Okay.
that's real. By the way, one of the things that I'll talk about later on is the difference between what is known as the art of the possible and the art of the practical. So that's on this side. On the hospital itself, we started to use AI in several areas. About 4.5 years ago, we decided to outsource our level one support, but rather than go and outsource it to an outsourcing company, we outsource it to AI. So we have a conversational AI as the front door in the front office to our call center, and you can get in touch with the call center via a phone or text or email or any which way you want. But the first stop is the AI itself. And we built use cases in several categories. The first one is break fix. Something doesn't work. Please help me fix it and stuff like this. The second one has to do with how to. There's something new that I need to learn. How do I do that? Stuff like this. So as you can see, it is inherited inside the environment. Just to, again, talk about practicality, and I'll move fast because, again, we want to have enough time for questions. When we started the process about 4.5 years ago, our average wait time was 42 minutes in the help desk, and the average abandon rate was 27.5%. Today, our average wait time is way less than 1 minute, and we have virtually zero abandon rate. Now, the way we did it also in the beginning was an understanding and being sensitive to people's feelings, etc. We said, if you don't want to talk to AI, just say the magic word, say human, and we'll switch you to a person. And as you can imagine, the first few weeks, about 80% of the people said human went directly to human. And then they noticed that other people get their answers way faster. So they started to use it. And today, almost nobody goes to human automatically. It goes through the conversational AI. Now, this was conversational AI. Then you learn from that and you go into Gen AI or LLMs. And now you move to the real prize, which is the agentic AI, when you actually really can do things. And that's really a significant change in the usage of AI from that perspective. And this is just an example on the front end when you talk to your users. There are many other areas, everything through the automation and efficiency across the board, which of course came as number one, but also some other areas. I'll give you just one more example and then we can move on. There's something called SOAP, and not SOAP as we know it, but similar acronym, which is basically the ambient usage of AI, which is listening to the conversation between the doctor and the patient. So AI now can do that, listen, and then summarize the conversation on its own for the doctor. It could also identify the treatment or ideas that the doctor put together. And then the next step of that one is to compare those findings to the database of all the cases that we have and come back and say, with this type of diagnostic, those were the 5 top ways that we treated the person. Those are the percentage of success, etc., and side effects and so on and so forth. And the doctors then can decide whether to use one of those or their own decision. We still believe in the human in the middle. We believe in that the doctor needs to make the call, but no doctor in the world has the knowledge of the entire data that exists in the world.
Right.
And that's one of the main things. Just for fun fact, MSK was created in 1880, and we have the record of the first patients that ever came in. We still keep it. So her name was Karen, and she came in May of 1880. We have all the details. So we really, really keep all the data.
Yeah.
Back to you,
And
Roger.
no matter how effective you were, Karen is probably no longer with us at this time.
Yes,
But it would be
I
quite a
assume
while.
so.
That's a tremendous
Maybe
idea.
maybe we could still find her on Social Security
Well,
records. I don't know.
That's
we can create
yes.
our avatar. But my thought was, you mentioned 14 or 15 years ago, and we were talking about knowledge system, expert systems and knowledge management back then. And I remember Microsoft was talking about this during the second wave, we call, of AI back in the 90s. Out of that came this whole idea of, as Deep was saying, it's not just data. There's a lot of expert insight in here. When did you realize that AI was not just an add-on or part of what you're doing, but the heart and soul of what you're doing? When did you realize that was true for you? And was that a conscious decision, or was it just that you found the way you're using AI to be more and more effective?
So AI is well, it's not a switch, if that's the question. We didn't kind of woke up one morning
Yeah.
and said, gee, why won't we use AI?
The committee sits around, goes, okay, today it's heart and soul. Now, if you could describe kind of how did
I
it
think
get to,
it's a natural evolution. In other words,
yeah,
in the search for tools to understand data, and with this I agree with Deep. It's not about the data or the amount of information that is there, but it's really understanding the data and also is the algorithmic, I would say, growth of data, which is like exponential. You will be lost if you try to understand data just by yourself as humans. We have limitations. So we started to look for tools that can help us understand data and then manipulate data and then use data. And of course, as such, we came into the tooling, and that's where we started with such.
right.
Every time we went, as the technology evolved in the world, so did we. And that was basically how we got there. And today, if you look at for example, I talked about the research side. If you look at our scientists, I would risk to say that a vast majority of our scientists can code.
Mm-hmm.
And because they understand the value of using technology and its manifestation today with AI of such. But I think that the turning point, if you may, started to be really with the emergence of Gen AI that
Okay.
basically democratized the usage of AI into many areas that before were blocked. Before that, to actually use AI effectively, you had to be a scientist.
Right.
By the way, don't let the word data scientist mislead you, because if you look at the LinkedIn, there are 5 million of them in the existence. Most of them used to be DBAs and data analysts before, but now they just renamed the title and now they're data scientists. Now I'm talking about real data scientists where science
Right.
is involved. When I went to college, when I studied statistics, this is Bayesian statistic, which is the base of all AI, and as well as K-means and some of the other words. That's
Yeah.
the base of all the works that we do.
Yeah. Mark, what have you one thing over the last year or so, I've heard you talk a lot about agentic AI. And in my conservative mind, is chief research officer at IDCA, I tend to try to be as skeptical as I can of anything that I hear. It makes me a little conservative, and yet we have people from top-notch organizations just telling us that agentic AI is part of what they do. I mean, what's your comment on what you just heard from both Deep and Tsvi?
Well, I agree with both Deep and Tsvi. I think that we gotten to the point. Agentic AI is not new, also,
Right.
Roger. So
I know.
it's been around. So what people are actually looking to do things now. They want to develop applications and solutions to do something, not just to get insights, but to make things happen. And I think agentic AI is just this very interesting element where you are basically you have those agents, you have those employees that are tasked to focus on. Look at what Deep was saying. It's not about use cases, it's about functions, and to be able to manage those functions. Now, you could manage them vertically, or you could manage this on a platform or infrastructure or horizontally. But I think this is the latest manifestation of AI, Roger. And basically, what I think really, when MIT report came out in August and said, "Oh my goodness, 95% of the AI is falling apart. It's just the sky is falling and everything. Goodness gracious, is not coming together." If you start to look at that, they only focused on small subset of generative AI, which has a lot of problems with it. Hallucinations being one of them. Some of the pilots never completed. But I think if you hear the stories that Deep and Tsvi have mentioned, it all comes down to, Roger, execution. It comes down to leadership commitment, and it comes down to what kind of sovereignty are you going to have on AI and data. It's irrelevant what you call it. AI has been around since late 1950s. It's not just, we're not talking about technologies. And I think it's very important that agentic AI is allowing us to move beyond pilots. Where
Yeah.
2/3 of the companies were stuck in some crazy pilots. They had to show those pilots. Now we're talking about real, what I called AI first components of the company. And if the company already is through the whole cycle, it's already AI first, meaning that it's enjoying AI fruits on the enterprise-wide deployment. So when analysis that it's showing, for example, Bain came out of analysis, which is a very good analysis. CEOs who embed AI strategy into talent reskilling, and we heard this today, governance, are seeing 3x return. A report came out from Microsoft, also Redmond. This report, 2025, it says if you focus on agile scaling and early adoption of agentic AI, you will really change the workflow and the process and improve the organization. So it truly is AI first. And I think by 2027, agentic AI, not only agentic AI, we're in this, physical AI. Jensen Huang made the whole big deal out of it. It is a big deal. It's a component which is going to leverage edge compute and micro data centers. So this corporate AI investment, together with agents, is going to hit 200 billion by 2027, and the organizations that are going to be able to show proof that this works, control their data, deploy at scale, not only show efficiency, that's given 30 to 50% efficiency, but also help with product deployments, new development, new breakthroughs that we're seeing with genomes and other things. That's going to be a big deal. The organizations that are not going to leverage this are going to be laggards, will remain very much hamstrung by outdated technologies, outdated process, outdated talent shortages, and very weak AI fluency, which doesn't put them in a good position.
Right. You're giving us a perfect segue to a question we want to ask. But first, let's do some more survey questions. If our producers could find number 4, let's do 4, 5, and 6. Yes. Please fill us out. I'm also getting some feedback from participants where they're mentioning privacy and ethics. In a general sort of way, they don't have specific questions about it, but it's an issue. So does your organization currently have an AI ethics or governance framework in place? 16%, 1 out of 6 tells us that it's fully defined. More likely it would be a half of the audience that is telling us that such a thing is in progress or they're planning it, and 30% have no framework. That's not a direct refutation of the first 3 answers. By the way, there's always some nuance in here. But what I'm seeing here to this question is a fairly balanced answer. In other words, enterprises are at all stages. They're aware, just as I indicated before. They're using it to some extent, but there's a lot of work to do. If we can look at question number 5. AI platforms, which type of AI platform are you most invested in? Now that we've talked about agentic AI quite a bit, let's see what our audience says. Well, generative, of course, is the big answer with about 40%. And yet, right now, only about 10%, 12% of the audience says that they're involved with agentic AI. Now, the idea of predictive and analytics and real data analysis and analysts also comes up, but 26% are saying they're involved in predictive or analytics and AI. And the good old answer, I'm not sure. So there's 25% that are still analyzing the issue, looking at things, but 75% are reacting positively and that they're using either Gen AI, predictive AI, and again, the agentic comes in at about 11%. In contrast to our panelists who are really kind of fully embraced it. And then one more question, and we'll move on to the discussion again. Number 6, please. Challenges. What's your organization's biggest challenge right now with AI adoption? Is it talent? Is it skills? Is it budget constraints? My guess is budget constraints will not win this one because talent shortage always comes up as an issue. And then actually the results. What is it we're doing? What kind of quality we're getting out of what we're doing? Security and compliance is there. But it's funny, budget constraints per se are really rarely the problem. You have the justification, you'll have the budget. You need the justification rather than just throwing a lot of money and hoping that the problem solves itself. It sounds like you need to work at this internally, organically, and your biggest problem is going to be finding people. So that's what we have there. Now, Mark, you had just mentioned laggards. We would like to ask all panelists, and let's start deep. Let's start with you. As you're taking the leadership position, what do you need to do to maintain that leadership position? What advice would you have, if any, for participants? And what will make them a leader rather than a laggard?
And Roger, I think as we're going through these questions, right, like issues like budget constraints, they typically come up when we don't have the enterprise behind this, right? And that's a combination, a coordination of leaders on one side business leaders who are saying that we really want to do this, and the technology leaders stepping in and saying how we can do this, right? So that's a dance that has to be played on an ongoing basis, and those who can figure it out and those who can on stay on that execution, it's a long and complex process to execute. Getting the AI part done is easy, but then connecting it into all other systems, making understand which part of this, which system will play what role in this new transformed AI first process, those become fairly big and complex question involving both humans, as well as multiple sets of technologies, right? So that's where AI is not a standalone. It's fused with all the humans and it's fused with multiple other technologies that are coming together. So how do you stay on top of all of it, stay through this process and have the tenacity to execute, I think becomes the biggest challenge. So if you have to ask me one capability that will stand out, can you be comfortably numb? Can you shut down all the noise and just deliberately focus and execute towards the transformation? I think that would make the biggest difference.
And Tsvi, what do you think as far as the work you do and what you recommend for others? And
So
I think
first,
this is irrespective of industry too, by the way. The two of you, are different businesses. Sorry to interrupt, but
no, that's okay.
yeah, generally
So
speaking.
yeah, so just a few comments. First of all, I think that in terms of the results showing 11% in agentic AI, I think that it is a symptom of what we're going through right now, which is basically uh, it's new, guys. Give it some time.
Mhm.
There's this irrational exuberance about okay, we can do everything today. We can't. That's where I was trying to say in the beginning. There is a major difference between what can be done and what people think that they can do. When I talk to my peers and other CTOs, etc., and I ask them, so what do we really do with AI? And most of them tell me, well, we can do this and we can do that. And I tell them, guys, don't tell me what you can do. Tell me what you're actually doing. And then the numbers go down quite significantly. So I think it is coming. So give it time, and you will see that agentic AI will take over the world and will take it in. But to the question itself, besides the fact that I like the Pink Floyd reference from Deep in terms of comfortably numb, but I think that it may surprise some. But in my opinion, AI leaders will not be judged by the number of AI initiatives that they run, not by the size of their AI dedicated teams, not by the budget they invest, but really by operationalizing agentic AI at scale with clear focus on integration with systems of records, exactly as Deep was suggested. It needs to work with the environment. It cannot be standalone. It needs to understand the environment and work within the environment. This also enables you to use RAG and CAG in a more efficient way and reduce the amount of hallucination. So you need to define a clear, measurable AI and really have a robust, secured and environment. The important thing is to really understand what you're doing and why. Many boards of directors, and I'm a member of a few, there's a huge push to use AI, use AI, use AI. And I always ask the question, great, to do what? To achieve what? If the answer is we don't know, we do it because every other company is investing in AI, you're going to waste your time, you're going to waste your money. And I think that what you read in the media about the amount of waste in AI and why AI does not provide the ROIs that is expected, and all the things that Mark mentioned in his opening statement, which was actually 100% accurate, it is not because AI is failing. It's not because AI is unrealistic. It is because the expectations are unrealistic. And if you invest just to invest, you will be disappointed. So my advice would be focus on the return. Why are you doing what you're doing? What do you want to achieve? And why is AI the right answer? Because AI cannot be the answer no matter what the question is. It needs to be the answer to the right question.
And Mark, we talked about talent, and I think you're hearing a lot about that. What what have you heard from people, or what do you think, based on what you've heard, about specific roles and skills and approaches that organizations absolutely must take if they're going to
Roger. So I think you can't just only focus on purely your standard academic research skills of a AI data scientist. I think it's going to require 25, 26, as we are moving the scale of productivity, or a scale of productivity at scale for agentic AI and other forces of AI, we have to combine technical depth with human-centric, with human skills. And I think if we are going to be successful, so if you look at some data, okay, I'll give you some data. ICT data shows 78% of the roles now demand AI-specific expertise. So it could be anything. So you have to, if you're a scientist, if you're a marketeer, if you're a content producer, you should know something about how to generate certain models, how to use prompt engineering, etc. So companies like PwCs and others feel that AI jobs, AI exposed jobs are evolving much faster. That's why Tsvi pointed out on the LinkedIn alone, we speak about LinkedIn. Everybody's putting AI because they want to be known. So they want to be known as AI engineers. They want to be known as data engineers. That who knows from the realities? The salaries are higher. There's a lot more positions. But in reality, is you don't necessarily need to do that. If you're able to combine, if you're very good with your process, your workflow, you understand your business, you're a business person, you understand your business model, and you could combine this, how to use AI to solve a problem, I think that's very important. I also think that you're going to have a lot of interesting new roles, probably prompt engineers. This is a role which is evolving. You don't necessarily need to be a data scientist. You need to know how to ask the right questions. I remember when I went to school, my professors were always asking, can you put together this Boolean expression, this or and XOR? It required a lot of kind of thinking of discrete mathematics. Prompt engineering is gonna ask you to think. What do you want? What do you want to ask so you could get a really valid answer? If you ask a stupid question, you're going to get a stupid response. So, and this is the big problem. So people are going on ChatGPT and Claude and all over asking questions. What do you suggest? Suggest on what? You suggest on one is going to access a couple of databases. It's going to Reddit or whatever it is, and it's going to suggest information from there. You have to make sure that the system learns, that make sure the systems understands what you mean. Give a couple of examples. I think also technology alone in the future, just knowing AI and technology and just anything is not going to cut it. You now have to embed this whole combination of embedding AI in workflows, driving change management, driving executive leadership, and I think human skills. If we go back to the discussion of human skills, I remember at the last World Economic Forum that I attended, durable human skills like problem solving, like creativity, are not going away. They're not going away. They're going to be there for our kids and the next generation. They will actually accelerate AI adoption. So we need to think about how humans are going to augment AI, not compete with it, and the skills are going to be integrated.
And Deep, you mentioned that Franklin Templeton manages $1.6 trillion in assets. That sounds like a lot of money. It's in a very competitive space. You have to be investing in general. It's 24/7, 365. It's a global process. So as far as you're looking at things in terms of talent, what are the most important issues that, in your opinion, associated with addressing talent, both for not only the entry level but all the way through the organization?
And Roger, to your point, and Mark kind of touched on it, Tsvi did as well. I just want to mention that let's start with the talent where things are already obvious, right? I mean, we are already talking about software programming in places where people are already seeing an impact, right? So do you still need software programmers? The reality is you still do. And in the space of data science, do you still need them? All the data science can be done by AI, but the reality is that you still need them. The biggest difference we are seeing when we are hiring those people is that now you are hiring for just the exceptional talent, and that part has grown. In fact, you may see in the news and the media all the time that there are extreme salaries being paid out and things of that nature, compensation packages, right? The reason it happens is that now the systems are becoming more complex. So you need significantly exceptional talent. If you were doing the software or the data science of the past, then you have no place. But if you have the true knowledge of math, the true ability to understand complex systems, then you are a highly desirable candidate at this point in time. And that's the shift we started to see. We are expecting a similar shift to happen on the investment side and all the other business roles that we have, where the talent would become exceptional. Their ability to manage in much bigger systems, have much more depth with all the support from AI, to have much better points of view. We will see a significant shift towards that. That's my biggest it's less about entry level versus the mid level, and so on. It's much more about how exceptional people are at different levels.
Right. Tsvi, the way you were talking about this, if you could expound a little bit, it sounds like you're not really looking for maybe a particular skill that someone has now, but the kind of mind that can be flexible enough to deliver what you need at the organization. Is that an accurate assessment of what you've been saying?
Not far. I think that I will agree with both Mark and Deep that the most critical emerging role will be really blending both AI fluency but also deep domain knowledge. Because otherwise, see, the idea is AI is a tool. Is a tool you should use. If you let AI lead, it will lead, but it may not lead you where you need to go. So you need to actually, again, as Deep said, be exceptional in what you're doing, and as Mark was saying, you need to really emerge yourself as from the business perspective and continue to understand the business to move forward from that perspective. I think that this is really important. I think that the fundamental way to look at people did not change. I tend to divide, people's capabilities when I interview into three categories. The first one is the skills. Do they have the skills needed to do the job? Now, skills can be learned. One of the next level is abilities. What are the abilities that a person have? Ability to learn quickly is an ability. Ability to do mathematics is an ability. So while skills can be relatively easy acquired, abilities are much harder to acquire. They take much longer. But the most important thing is the third one, which is the values. What type of a person are you? Those things never change. And this
Yeah.
stays the same in the world of AI. You still need to have the right personality, the right conviction, the right passion, all of the above. And then if you have the right abilities, then you can acquire the skills. I can assure you that when I was born, I did not speak C++ fluently. I
Yeah.
had to acquire this talent. So
Nobody. Yeah.
Same here. Mark, we've got about 8 minutes left. We had developed a question for our
Okay,
panel.
I will take the whole 8 minutes, Roger.
I'm not. That's the least of my concerns. No, we had developed a question about the tension between innovation speed and regulatory complexity. But from what I'm hearing, let's rephrase that a little bit. The tension between innovative speed and everything else that may impede it. What are your thoughts on that? Because speed is of the essence, yet there's a lot of complexity here and a lot of topics that we've raised. What's that tension in your mind?
So I think we have to look at both on the government level and see where the direction is in U.S. Direction in U.S. Roger, we spoke about this many times. It is very clear. It is innovative, innovative breakthrough, agile, design-based, moving forward very quickly. This is the kind of a roadmap that is being set up by the government right now, and it is very prevalent within organizations in the United States. Very opposite is true in European markets. And again, multinationals play both. They are in US, they're in Europe, they're in Asia, they're everywhere. But in Europe, it's all about, okay, are we building environment which is going to be compliant? Are we making sure that we protect users, we protect humans? I think we have to do both. And I think that the focus should be from regulators, should be on high risk sectors. Healthcare, for example, where Tsvi is part of from, allowing low-risk innovation to flourish is a big deal, but I think maybe we could do a lot more. Now, the question is, will Europe allow the same? I don't know. I think also when you look at projections right now, all the projections, when you look at analysts and people that study, U.S. regulations right now are very laxed. They're staying innovation friendly. Even the NIST, right? NIST AI risk management. It's all about self-regulation. If you look at it, it's all about self-regulation. Take a look at this. If people on this Zoom call are following, there are, of course, you need to have practical tools. And that includes regulatory sandboxes. They're already, as Deep knows, already highly effective in finance. And you have to do a lot more to make AI explainable. I agree with that. I think European Union standards are correct in that. We're not doing enough to make AI explainable. And I think we got to come up with transparent policies. We have to make sure all stakeholders are aligned. There have to be continuous audits, and ethics is a big part of this. We have to we have to make sure we keep it. So, bottom line is, we have to, when regulators look at this, we have to distinguish between very high demand generative AI systems from very efficient traditional machine learning or deep neural networks that are ensuring sustainability. There are a lot of difference there. And the winning approach should not be like, okay, using regulations as a barrier. Actually, it could be used as an enabler. And I think integrating governance early on, as many companies are doing, yet providing innovative philosophy and approach, is a competitive edge.
Right. Deep, do you have thoughts you can express on that topic?
Yeah, I think to Mark's point, that competitive edge stays, with where you are making those investments, that doesn't go away. It's just a nature of how it's a shifting landscape. I think what I do want to just point out is, with all of this, and this is what honestly keeps me awake at night, is that with everything that Mark said, just the one thing that I would add to that is a shifting landscape. It's a constantly shifting landscape. So for companies, countries, others, anybody who wants to stay ahead in this game, they have to be not just aware of where we are and you're constantly out there, but constantly reprioritizing, rethinking, reevaluating, and taking the next level of bets on top of it. So that's the only add to what Mark said.
Yeah, and then Tsvi, do you have thoughts on this topic?
I think that again, no need to say what was already said. I think, well, of course, Deep enjoys the life of Reg NMS and MiFID and stuff as such. We have HIPAA and some of the other ones. Trust me, it's not much better. But the thing to understand is that by nature, the regulators will be little late to the game. This is a new technology, they don't understand it. So the first reaction could be either just do whatever you want, and then we'll tell you later, why did you do that? Or just don't do anything because it's too dangerous. The reality is somewhere in between. I think that the future, by the way, the future of regulation itself is also something where AI could really help. So this is an area that in all the topic of RegTech, they're basically the regulation technology, there is an ability to continuously monitoring how the regulation changes and then how compliant are you. We need to understand that the regulators and the auditors and the examiners are not the enemy. Okay, they're really trying to do their job to protect the customers, to protect the environment, but they will take them some time to get to the reality, and they will never be, because technology will continue to run and they have to catch up.
Maybe
And
interject quickly
so we
on
need
that
to
one, Tsvi,
create self-regulation. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So I just want to interject because you made a great point. I just want to highlight, Roger, that this part, that this is one technology where you see the people from the legal experts, the compliance people, the regulators, everybody interested in trying themselves and getting engaged. And that is amazing shift that I've seen, right? That they themselves want to understand, want to get engaged. And I think there's a lot of that support on that front.
Okay, we have two more questions I got to squeeze in, and then we'll let Mark sign us out of here. Question 7, I believe we'd like. Yeah, number 7. Sustainability. Oh, we have to do another hour. I'm sorry. Are you considering the energy and water implications? Although Mark did mention water. Yes, of course. 30% are consider. Oh, that's a big jump here. Okay, so sustainability is a key issue. 38% of our audience says they're actively considering it, another 28%. So we've got 2/3 that are considering it, and about 1/3 that are not making it a priority or haven't yet. And then question 8, please. When do you think, oh, I think maybe we have one more question after this one. When do you think artificial AGI will become a reality? Oh boy, so within 5 years, so the clock is ticking and it's going to continue to tick very quickly. It appears that we're in kind of a, very fast moving snowball going down a hill. Do we have a 9th question then? How effective was this? Yeah, this is the one I was expecting. This is where our participants get to tell us how we did. No sugarcoating the results. So half of you almost thought we were extremely effective. 2% not effective. Sorry. But let us know if anyone seriously has a specific concern you'd like to address to us. Please do to IDCA. We take everyone's opinion seriously. We'd like to hear from you. So very good. It looks like 85%. Oh, let's give us a 13. 98% said we're effective, so we get an A. Very good. Thank you. Mark, we are at the top of the hour, but let's give you one more minute. Sum up, what are we here today, and what's your advice for everyone that's attended? And thank you so much for everyone who has attended.
Thank you, Roger, for moderating this. I hope that audience has a takeaway from this, that we are in the AI first transformative world, that everything that we're touching today, infrastructure, industries like finance and healthcare and pharma and hospitals, are driven by AI, and it's becoming core piece of the company operations. So for me, what we discussed today is we are on this next wave of transformation, and it's not, as everybody discussed today, it's not just technology. It is a complete paradigm shift. It is democratizing innovation, and you have to move very quickly. Things change rapidly. You got to observe. You got to move quickly. You got to experience this. You got to learn and be a pioneer, and you will develop significant opportunities. But if you are passive and you're just observing and you are monitoring, but you're not active, you're not participating, you're not going to be the leader in this space. So I'm very optimistic after this conversation that we are making tremendous progress. And I want to thank very much my friend Deep and my friend Tsvi for being here today.
Yes, thank you. Join us again on October 15th. We're going to talk about energy and water. We've got a special report coming out. If you'd like to contact any of our 3 panelists today directly, please let us know. We found you, you found us. Let us know. We'll put you in contact. Thank you, Deep. Thank you, Tsvi. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone, for participating, and we'll see you later.